All right, so I want to make sure that you get a good, strong introduction to the Canterbury Tales. So while I'm not always going to read the piece that we are looking at aloud to you, I want to make sure that I do that here at the beginning because the beginning of a piece is always the hardest. And this in particular being both of an older style and also poetry is gives it just a little extra level of difficulty. The entire piece is not this difficult. So the piece opens when in April the sweet showers fall and pierce the drought of March to the root, and all the veins are bathed in liquor of such power as brings about the engendering of the flower. When also Zephyrus, with his sweet breath, exhales an air in every grove and heath upon tender shoots, and the young sun, in his half course in the sign of the ram has run, and the small fowl are making melody that sleep away the night with open eye. So nature pricks them, and their heart engages. Then people long to go on pilgrimages. And palmers long to seek the stranger strands of far off saints hallowed in sundry lands. And specially from every shire's end in England down to Canterbury they wend to seek the holy blissful martyr, quick to give him his help to them when they were sick. I stumbled over that last part. So that's the first stanza. And I don't know if you noticed, but the entire first 14 lines are all one sentence. It's a very long sentence, and I want to break it down a little bit. Question number 9 asks, in which season does this story begin? Well, we have a pretty good clue right here in the first 2 lines. When in April, the draft of March has been pierced. So if you know what season April is, then you know the answer to that question. And there are some other clues here too to let us know that it is springtime. We have all the veins are bathed in liquor of such power as brings about the engendering of the flower. Engendering is an odd word, but it means that it is beginning to grow. The flowers are growing. So when in April sweet showers fall, the flowers begin to grow. We have a phrase that means pretty much the same thing. April showers bring May flowers. So that is how this poem begins. April showers bring May flowers. And also Zephyrus, who your footnote tells you is the west wind, is blowing his sweet breath. So now a new wind has come. The weather is changing, and the birds are starting to wake up. All the little grasses and flowers are starting to grow. The small fowl are making melody. The birds are singing in the trees. And so it says then, so this is what's happening to nature. The flowers are growing, the grass is turning green again, the wind is getting warmer, and the birds are singing. And then so people respond similarly. It says, then people long to go on pilgrimages. After all, don't we want to go on a trip when the weather changes? After it's been cold and miserable in the winter and it starts to get warm again, we all start thinking, oh, it's time to go on vacation. And so that's basically what this is saying. People long to go on pilgrimages and travel to seek the stranger strands. And the popular thing to do in the Middle Ages was not go to Panama City. The popular thing to do in the Middle Ages was to go on a pilgrimage. A pilgrimage is a journey to visit a saint or to visit the remains of a saint, really. These are not living people, these saints. These are relics. They are shrines that have been set aside to honor the death of a martyr. And so in particular, this group is traveling down to Canterbury to visit the martyr, who, if you click on the footnote, it tells you his name is St. Thomas a Becket. And there's a whole lengthy story about his murder in Canterbury Cathedral that we don't have time to get into. But he was a very popular martyr to visit, and his shrine was in Canterbury. All right, so that gets us through the first part of this story. We now know what season it is and where our pilgrims are going. And now we are going to answer the remaining questions in this next stanza. It happened in that season that one day in Southwark at the Tabard, as I lay ready to go on pilgrimage and start for Canterbury, most devout at heart, at night there came into that hostelry some 29 in a company of sundry folk happening then to fall in fellowship. And they were pilgrims all that toward Canterbury meant to ride. The rooms and stables of the inn were wide. They made us easy, all was of the best. And shortly when the sun had gone to rest, by speaking to them all upon the trip, I soon was one of the fellowship, and promised to rise early and take the way to Canterbury, as you heard me say. So we have showing up in this stanza a narrator, a voice that is I. And there's some debate among scholars whether this is Geoffrey Chaucer himself, or they usually call him the Chaucer narrator character. So we'll just refer to this I voice as the narrator. And he lets you know where they are starting their journey in Southwark, which is the town, and the Tabard, which is the inn where they are. These footnotes are very helpful, and I hope this video shows you that you can use those to help you answer some of the questions you might have. And so there come 29 in a company. You just add those together to get your number. And they are headed to Canterbury. And at this point, the narrator says, nonetheless, while I have time and space, it seems reasonable for me to describe each of these characters. So the prologue of this that we're going to continue reading next week is the narrator describing all the different characters from all the different social groups. Before we move on, though, two literary device elements that I wanted to point out to you. One, notice that the Canterbury Tales is a poem. It rhymes in every set of lines. The way I'm reading it, I'm kind of reading past the rhyme sometimes because the sentence keeps going, and that makes it make more sense. But if you just read straight down, start, heart, hostelry, company, fall, all, ride, wide, best, rest, these rhymes in sets of two, and sets of two are called a couplet. And then a reminder about literary devices in line number 30, when the sun had gone to rest. What is that an example of? I'm going to leave that up to you, though, because we covered these while we were doing Beowulf. So if you need to go back and look them up, please do. But I'm not going to give that answer away. I hope this helps you understand the beginning of the Canterbury Tales, and I hope you are excited to meet all of the characters on the journey next week.